Welcome, everyone, to the heart of the revolution, One Mountain, Many Paths. Today, unfortunately, Christina, who always does our gorgeous intro, is not here, so I will be taking over for her. And thank you, Krista, for beautifully chanting us in for the beginning of this glorious meeting. So today, as with every Sunday, our mission is what Barbara Marx Hubbard and Dr. Marc Gafni call a planetary awakening in love through unique self symphonies, which is at the core of both a political and social evolution of love. We are connected, we are whole, and we are expressions of the entire evolutionary impulse that began at the beginning of it all, now inside, awake, and alive in every single one of us. If that doesn't blow your mind, then take a second to consider that literally everything since the beginning of anything built to you existing right now and us being able to have this conversation, excuse me. So we here at One Mountain, Many Paths are not necessarily a church or a synagogue or a zendo, but we are all of these things at once, and everybody is included. Nobody is excluded. And these teachings are here to raise humanity to the next evolution of what we can be, which is Homo Amor, the fulfillment of Homo sapiens, the awakening of a new species on planet Earth. And what to expect today is something fresh, something new, because unfortunately, Dr. Marc Gafni, well, fortunately as well, he is currently on a plane with his family headed back from his great trip out to see his mother in Israel. And for that reason, he's not able to be with us, even though we all know he would love to log in from the sky if he could. So everyone give him and his family a quick blessing so that they make it home safe and sound. But today we will be led by Krista Josepha, the executive director of the center here, through a wonderful teaching. But before we get into her teaching, David will bring us in with an introduction and intention setting for the day. And then we will come back to a little poem from myself. And later on, we'll even get to hear from an amazing member of our community telling their own story of how the Dharma is running and moving through their life, their daily lived experience. So there's a lot of fun stuff coming up. And right before we get into the introduction with David, I just want to say, coming up in a couple months now, we have our big live event of the year happening on April 20th to April 24th. You can study with Dr. Marc Gafni in person. You can meet so many of the people who are here on Zoom live right now. We can give each other hugs and we can sit at the very cutting edge of philosophy on planet Earth. We are having our yearly meeting, which is called the Mystery School. Last year and the years before that, it was called the Eros Mystery School. And this year it is taking an evolutionary leap to be called the Crossing, because the whole entire purpose of this event is for all of us to be able to show up and cross from Homo sapien to Homo Amor, meaning that we are able to embody the new human and the new humanity and all of the teachings we learned here at One Mountain, Many Paths. If you are new here, which I forgot to mention, there is some unique language that you'll be hearing, but allow yourself to just sit into that and relax into that, because we will always make sure to explain what we are saying, why we're saying it. And it's very important to use new language as we are developing a new philosophy, because words change the way that we think, change the way that we perceive. So it's very important to bring that new language in. So the Crossing is a place where you get to not only just live inside of this new evolution, but you also get to experience it embodied, not only through meeting Dr. Marc Gafni and learning directly from him, but also his wonderful partner, Christina Kincaid, does embodiment workshops. You have live music. It's just a gorgeous event. So there is a link in the chat box. Click that to get more information. And yeah, I'm glad that you're all here today. And without further ado, I turn my word to you, David, for the intention setting of the day.
Thank you, Eli. Wow, it is so good to be here. And why are we here? This is what I'm here to talk about for a few minutes. Why is it that we've been doing this for almost 10 years? I think we said 489th episode, unbroken for all this time. Why is it that all of us here are drawn to this community? Well, we live in a context that's so important that Eli was pointing out in the introduction that we live in an intimate universe. And we've all known what that means, right? In our clarified experience, we feel, we know in our very bodies that this mysterious cosmos is somehow intimate with us, that it's beyond understanding, and yet it's so close and so connected, and that everything is connected. And there's an essential what matters to cosmos. Everything matters, right? Everything truly feels and is connected and one and evolving. We live in an evolutionary cosmos that intimacy is always evolving towards deeper and greater and deeper, wider intimacies. And so we're drawn here in part because of this realization. And in part because we look around and that's not apparent everywhere, right? We actually live in what Dr. Marc Gafni calls a global intimacy disorder. We have worldwide record highs of depression, suicide rates. You know, Great Britain even created a ministry of loneliness, right? This is an epidemic of loneliness in the world, feeling dissociated, disconnected. Polarization is rampant. I just read in the US, the Congress has passed a record low number of laws, less than 300 in the last few administrations, whereas it used to be thousands of laws were passed. Like there's a polarization. People cannot govern together. Global military spending is on the rise. We are so unbearably close to each other and so disconnected at the same time. Right now, there's a famine going on in Gaza, in Sudan, and the world's countries just sort of fold their arms and say, "I've got to take care of my own." Right? We live in a global intimacy disorder. And it's good that there's friction because that means that we know we're touching each other in some fundamental way. And yet this friction is without any shared story. And so we're at the brink of collapse. And there's a breakdown of meaning. So we look around and we look for, well, what do we see out there? What are the stories about making sense of this reality that are available to us? And we see there's one story, the traditional story, we call it here, where there's a fundamentalist story. The world is ordered. There's traditional religion that often is in this bucket, right? That my religion, my world is ordered, certain, I can be saved, and really that's my whole world, right? The dignity of this is that it provides stability, it provides a lineage, it provides a path, and often very genuine, powerful transmissions of deep knowing and wisdom. And there's obligation, there's a sense that I have purpose. The disaster, though, and every story has a disaster, is that it's ethnocentric. It's so insulated. It's homophobic. It's anti-body. It's anti the feminine. And so I can be stuck in my bubble of my church or my religion and just sort of see the world through my prism and say, I'm the only one, we're the only ones that are saved. And so the world falls apart outside of our bubble. And then when it's truly degraded, you have something like Hamas, where it's not only an ethnocentric prism, but it's extremely distorted, where it's all about actually annihilating the other. And then we look and we see we have the modern story, this modern success story, living the rat race, as many people call it. And the dignity of this story is that we can have agency over our lives. We can let go of the baggage of these religions or these limiting worldviews and pursue our lives, make something happen. We can create scientific discoveries, advance in technology. We can create our business. We can sort of freely create the life that we want. And the dignity to this is that we do feel like we have dignity, like I matter as a separate self, and there's an agency. But the disaster is that it's destroying the biosphere, that this story, if everyone is simply in this rat race to get for themselves whatever they can, look at what's going on. We have inequality, just extreme inequality. We have marginalization. A lot of people are left out of this system. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. The biosphere itself is being degraded. And you have, the Barbie story. If we look at text of culture that we often have, Dr. Mark has reviewed in the past, we look at the text of culture of the Barbie movie, which describes this experience of like, oh, I'm my own autonomous person. I can do what I want as Barbie, and Ken can do what he wants. And there's no actual intrinsic love story. There's no intrinsic field of love that binds us. There's nothing that draws us together. And so we have degraded versions of this story. And then we look again and we look at the postmodern story. And the postmodern story is, in a sense, actually that there is no story, that it's all meaningless, that our lives are ultimately of no consequence. I just heard that this weekend from someone, and it just broke my heart. And he was saying that, oh, well, at least we can just look at our relationships, our family, and sort of have a meaningful life, and we create our own reality in that world. And I thought, well, the dignity of this postmodern story is that it does free us to truly unpack everything in our lives and create this sort of meaning and and focus on what feels right to us and meaningful to us. Oftentimes, subtle human relationships and connections are more meaningful in this worldview. But then we have this insane disaster, which is we can be in our own little bubble, making our own world, creating our own life, go to our Vipassana retreat or our psychedelic journey, or just, do whatever we want, and the world falls apart around us. And so there's no connective tissue, there's no coherent story that binds us all. And we have global problems, global existential threats, climate change being only one of them, that we cannot solve because there's no coherent sense that we're all in this together. It breaks my heart that we have famines going on in the world, and it's a question whether we should do something about it, right? There's not like we are in this together. We automatically know that if anyone is suffering, it draws us to end that suffering, to resolve it, to somehow work together to find solutions. That isn't happening right now. And so we can't rely on the stories that we currently see around us. It's just not enough. And each of these stories, we can live within and optimize our own little world while the rest of the world falls apart. And there is no rest of the world. We're all in this together. There is no my life and the rest of the world's life. There is no outside world. It's all one world. And so how do we discover, discern, weave together this tapestry of stories that are ultimately part of the same story, right? This evolutionary love story. And so when we don't have that, we have One Mountain, Many Paths that is trying to do that. And so we're publishing books. We're doing so much work to articulate this new story of value that weaves all these stories together, all the past stories together into a larger coherent story that everyone in the world could find their way in. And every path ultimately brings us closer together. So the beauty of this is that crisis, as we often say, because we are in an evolutionary universe, an intimate universe, crisis is a driver. And so the crisis is birthing what we're doing right here. So here we go. We have a beautiful week, and we're going to talk about what this outrageous love story that we're living, this evolutionary love story that we're leaning into is all about. And so I'm going to go into this week's love code. And our evolutionary love code consolidates the teaching for the week into a mini version of what we're talking about. So it helps us focus, right? And I mentioned briefly the Barbie and the Hamas story. And so it's about these stories. So here's this week's evolutionary love code. There are three universe stories. There is the Barbie universe story. There is the Hamas universe story, or the fundamentalist universe story, and there are different forms of fundamentalism. And then there is the Homo Amor story, CosmoErotic humanism, the new story of value. Those are the three choices that we have today. It's not a binary choice. We need to find a third way. We need to find our way between the binary of the Barbie and the Hamas story, between the the postmodern desiccated empty materialism and a pseudo-erotic fundamentalism, which is wildly destructive. The third way is the new story of value rooted in evolving first principles and first values, cosmoerotic humanism. And with that, it's my pleasure to turn my word to you, Krista Josepha.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, David, for that beautiful setting of intention and framing us and bringing us insight to who we are, what are we doing here, and that evolutionary arc through pre-modernity, modernity, post-modernity to where we are right now in history. And thank you for doing that, and also just really appreciating and celebrating the unique flavor of your unique voice and how that came through, because of course we're here, we're articulating and we're sharing the Dharma, the language, the new story as it is articulated by Dr. Marc Gafni and many other great thinkers at the think tank in this new story that we're calling CosmoErotic humanism. But all of us here are called forward to bring this into our unique corner of the world in our own unique way. And so one way of doing it is learning how to speak this new language, how to bring it into reality. And David is modeling that so beautifully for us. And I hope that I know that we will all in this next hour, as Dr. Marc Gafni is not here with us this week, but he is pouring into not only the people that are speaking here today, but into each and every one of us. Imagine that we're all speaking here today. We're all using our unique voices here today to speak and enact and embody this new story, this cosmo-erotic universe story, this outrageous love story into reality. And David shared it so beautiful with that evolutionary love code that was, of course, written by Dr. Marc Gafni, that we have in our culture right now what we're calling a collapse of value. And that means that there's actually expressions of a failed love story that we can see in reality, that we can see happening. And David shared many expressions of that, the suffering, the polarization. But I want to go back to what we have done here with Dr. Marc Gafni. I think it was 2 years ago, where he had a beautiful series of talks about this movie of Barbie that David also spoke about in the Love Code. And as we are in week, 87, I think, that means that as most of us here know, we have all those episodes. What we did is we transcribed those episodes and we published them into books by topic. So I just want to remind ourselves that we have this amazing book. It's called Barbie, Hamas, and Oppenheimer: Denied, Degraded, and Distorted Versions of the Universe, a Love Story. And so what Mark did was read the movie Barbie as a sacred text of culture. And this book, all of these talks happened in 2023 when the movie Barbie came out. At the same time, the movie Oppenheimer came out. And at the same time, Hamas happened on October 7th, where the atrocities in Israel have happened. And so all of that happened in 1 year. So it was like an explosion of cultural events that show us that there is a huge collapse of value. So I want to start by reminding us of these awesome, beautiful talks, and then also talk about how do we respond? How do we become the universe, a love story in person, in the flesh, in our own lives? And so one of the things that Mark says in these talks is that what we did in our culture is that we killed all the gods except for Aphrodite. And what does that mean? What that means is that we destroyed value. We deconstructed value in this postmodern time where we say that nothing is actually real. There is no real truth in cosmos. There's nothing that we can name that is absolutely true in cosmos. And what that means is that because we killed all the gods, meaning we killed the field of value, we killed the notion that there are first principles and first values that are true, that means that we killed all the gods except for Aphrodite. So we thought that we could kill all value and say value is not real, but still have love, still have romantic relationships, and Aphrodite is the goddess of love. But what happens is that Aphrodite cannot survive without all the other gods, and the value of love collapses under the pressure of all value in culture having collapsed. And I was thinking of this because I don't know if you guys know this, but in Italy there is something called a love bridge. And this bridge was like the celebration of romantic love, the celebration of Aphrodite, you could say. And people would come there. It's a beautiful bridge of a stone, so it's a nature like a rock, but it's a bridge, and then you can go with a boat underneath it. And so people would go there. It's an idyllic place. They would ask each other to marry, and it's called the Love Bridge in Italy, in the country of love. And that love bridge, actually on Valentine's Day last week, that love bridge collapsed. And I thought it was so meaningful because that's literally what is happening in our culture. The love story has collapsed. We don't have a love story at the center of our culture anymore. And these are just expressions of that. So it's Barbie, it's Hamas, it's Oppenheimer. And so this book, like I said, happened all of this in 2023. And what Barbie did was it said there is no Barbie and Ken. So Barbie and Ken are not in love with each other anymore. When Barbie is asked at the end of the movie, people ask, what about Barbie? And everyone says, oh, Barbie loves Ken. And then Barbie says, I'm not in love with Ken. So she doesn't love Ken. And in this book, Dr. Marc Gafni describes scene after scene after scene where we can see that what the movie Barbie is telling us is that there is no love story. There is no archetypal line quality penetrating the circle quality. There is no lovemaking in reality. And what we're saying is that this is not, of course, what the movie makers intended with this movie, but it is an expression of culture, and it's the goddess whispering to us and crying through this movie like there's no love story anymore. And at the same time, the other movie launched, Oppenheimer, which is about the creation of the bomb. And with that creation of the bomb, what happened is how they created the bomb is by discovering how to split an atom. And so splitting an atom is exactly the movement of destruction. It's exactly the movement against Eros. It's exactly the movement against love, because as we know in the new story of CosmoErotic humanism, which is what this book is all about, what we are saying is that, like, no, actually, there are first principles and first values. Actually, there is a universal love story, and at the core of that universal love story are these first principles, and one of them is actually outrageous love, or Eros. And we have defined what Eros actually means, and Eros means the coming together and moving towards each other of the parts, creating larger wholes. And so literally the splitting of an atom is anti-Eros. It's like the opposite. It's the destructive force, bringing parts, separating parts to create an atomic bomb that can destroy. And so what we need to do is to tell a different story. These stories obviously are not going to take us home. Barbie, Hamas, Oppenheimer does not have the power to bring us home, obviously. So we need a new story that is actually an outrageous love story. And that's actually what all of these books are about. Let me show you one more. I'm going to do a little book presentation here. So this is another book. We showed it last week. It's called Value is a Feeling, and Artificial Intelligence Doesn't Feel. And right now, the way artificial intelligence is set up and the way that it's created, it's also an expression of a failed love story. And this book is all about why that is, but also what we can do about it. And at the core of this book, Marc describes a moment where there was a conference about artificial intelligence, and they were asking, someone's actually saying, like, we actually need to upload universal human values into artificial intelligence so that artificial intelligence doesn't lead to the death of our humanity, which it clearly directs us to right now, but it can actually become part of the universal love story. So someone says we need to upload universal human values into AI. Then the next person asks, okay, what is universal? No one answers, silence. What is human? Silence. And then what is value? And at that point, everyone starts to laugh because there is no response. And then that's the end of the conversation. We don't know what universal is, we don't know what human is, and we don't know what value actually is. And that means that we don't know what it means to be a human being, and what it means to love, and what it means to live a life that actually matters. Another expression of a failed love story is, for example, a beautiful book that I'm editing right now with all the talks and everything that Marc Gafni has ever written about Yuval Noah Harari. And for those of you who have been here in One Mountain for a while, you know what this is about. But Yuval Noah Harari actually literally in his book says that any meaning that we as human beings ascribe to our lives is actually completely delusional. He says there is no meaning, there is no value, nothing matters, your life doesn't matter, basically. And so that also means that we cannot make the distinction between what is right and what is wrong. And literally, Harari says, it doesn't matter whether you are Mother Teresa or you are Hitler. It doesn't matter whether you go and save people and take care of refugees or whatever, do good in the world, or you go and kill people, because we cannot articulate value, we cannot say what is right or wrong. And in this postmodern society, everything is only perspectives, it's only your opinion, it's only your own social construct that is creating or making up a story of meaning in your life. And so Yuval Harari is also saying that we are facing these existential risks, and that if we don't have a story of value that can cohere us as a humanity to respond to these existential risks, that also means that means that these existential risks are going to happen. But what he's saying is that we cannot articulate a story of value that is real. And so he's saying we just need to make up a story of value, and it's a lie, but it's fine, because even a story that is a lie has the power to cohere people. But of course, what we are saying is like, no, actually, there is real value in cosmos. There is goodness, truth, and beauty. My life actually does matter. And so this is kind of like the field that we are, I want to say, up against in a way. Like, this is the battle between good and evil, you can say. And this is the fight to actually bring this new story of value into reality. And I just want to feel for a moment who we are here together on this call, and feel that this is ours to do. As we always say that here, but I feel like there is another level of power that we can actually claim and that we can actually embody as a band of outrageous lovers. Like, what would it mean for each and every one of us here to realize the next level of our enlightenment, you can say, to realize at a whole new level who we are, that we are so powerful, and that we have such an important task and mission here together, that there's a reason that we've been coming here together, most of us, for all those 10 years and all those 480 what's not episodes. And there's a reason why we are here. And maybe some of us are new here, but there's a reason why you are here. And there's a reason that we're cohering here together to tell this new story and to become this new story and to be this response to existential risk. And so I want to talk about what it means to be an outrageous lover. Because by becoming and enacting and embodying outrageous love in our personal lives, we are actually becoming the rebellion, the attention rebellion. We are becoming the revolution. And we can only feel how much that matters if we realize that everything that we do in our own unique corner of the world, whether it is public or private, it doesn't matter. Whether it is big or small in your mind, it doesn't matter. Whether you're just doing the dishes and no one is seeing you, it doesn't matter, because it's the way that you show up. And it's the intention with which you show up. And it's the heart with which you show up. And so as an outrageous lover, we have a beautiful, beautiful practice where we're blessing everything that we're doing with outrageous love, basically. And the blessing is in Hebrew. It's a blessing that we say, and we say it every day in our prayer. And you're welcome to join us for prayer every day in the community. But the blessing is like this. What we say is, L'shem yichud, kudesha brichu, ushechinte. L'shem yichud, kudesha brichu, ushechinte. L'shem yichud, kudesha brichu, ushechinte. And what that actually means is that you're blessing that moment. What it literally means is, L'shem yichud, may this be for the uniting of the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine. May this be for the sake of the whole. And so through making that blessing, you're literally changing the fabric of the inside of Cosmos. And you're like plugging your unique life, the moment of your life in that moment, you're plugging that into the larger whole. And you're saying, I'm not just doing this for myself. I'm not just living for myself. I'm not doing the dishes just for my own pleasure. I'm doing the dishes, and the way that I'm doing the dishes and the way that I'm feeling reality, the way that I'm touching the water, and I can already hear Terry thinking like, oh, the next time I'm going to be doing the dishes, I hope you will be thinking of me. And so the way that we're doing the dishes is actually as an outrageous lover, and we're blessing reality with it. And so we walk through our lives knowing that I am an outrageous lover, that I live in an intimate universe, and the intimate universe lives in me. So as soon as I wake up, the first thing that I want to do as an outrageous lover is remind myself, because when we sleep, we forget, and we wake up like, what the fuck am I doing here? At least I wake up like that often. But then, so the first thing is like, we want to remind ourselves, and however you want to do that, whether it's through formal practice or just by talking out loud to yourself or moving your body and saying the Dharma in your head, like, oh my God, I'm an outrageous lover. Everything I do matters. My life matters so much. And you arouse yourself, because one of the qualities of an outrageous lover is that we take responsibility for our own arousal. So we arouse ourselves with outrageous love, and we can do that by practicing, by studying, by reading. And then we realize I'm an outrageous lover, and then we start to walk and move through the world as an outrageous lover, committing our outrageous acts of love. So a few more of the qualities of an outrageous lover, so we can really feel that in our body, in our heart right now, and we can be in the pleasure and the joy and the power of that. As I said, one quality is we are omni-considerate for the whole. So we can feel the whole. We can feel the intimate universe as one moving, dancing organism that I am a part of. So I'm not separate from the whole, but I'm part of the whole. And I actively participate in this whole moving organism, I want to say. And so that means that I know that my story, the story of my personal life, is part of the universe, a love story. And that, as we say here, that is literally chapter and verse in the universe, a love story. And that means that this evolutionary arc and the evolution of reality and the evolution of intimacy literally cannot happen if I don't become the evolution of intimacy. And so one arc, one plot line, one way of evolving intimacy is that we go from egocentric intimacy, where I am my separate self and I care only about the intimacy of myself. Then we go to ethnocentric intimacy, where we realize, like, actually, no, I don't care only about myself. I care about my family, maybe my friends, my tribe, my nation. That group of people, I'm going to care for them. But then we evolve intimacy and we realize, no, actually, I care about the whole world. I want to be intimate with the whole world, with all the human beings and all the nations and all the religions and all the genders and all the animals. I want to be in love, madly in love with the whole world. And that's world-centric intimacy. But then we take the next step and we actually want to be madly in love with all of Cosmos. And we want to feel how Cosmos actually is alive and brimming and shimmering and moving and wants us, how reality actually wants us to be intimate with all of reality, so that all of reality can actually become intimate with us in our lives. And so that's the evolution of intimacy, from egocentric to world-centric to cosmocentric. So that's another quality of an outrageous lover, is that we realize that our lives participate constantly. It's not once, it's like constantly. How can I move from being egocentric, separate self, and how can I open my heart, and how can I be intimate with all of reality in this moment, in this moment, in this moment. And so one example of that in my life, and we're going to hear more examples later today from Terry, outrageous love stories. But today I actually got a second chance from reality, because I drove up the road here, and there's a man living there that I know that he has something with his knee, so he has a painful knee, but he works at an Italian restaurant in the city. So he has to walk with his cane, and he's walking to the bus station, and then from the bus he takes the bus and he goes to this Italian restaurant. And actually this guy is actually Italian, so it was also a beautiful intimate universe to have the love bridge in Italy collapse and then to have this beautiful Italian man in front of me speaking beautifully Italian to me. I can't repeat it, but something with bella and ciao and all the things. And he was standing by the side of the road. And I'm going to share something a little bit, I want to say shameful. But I have driven past him once where I wasn't exactly sure if he was asking me for help, but I kind of knew. But I was in a rush and I was like, I don't have time to bring him to the bus station right now. So I just drove on. It breaks my heart when I think about it now. But it's also to say, like, we're imperfect. We can't be outrageous lovers all the time, but we can be, actually. And then if we're not, we get a second chance and we can actually make up for it. So this beautiful Italian man was walking there again with his cane, and he was like wildly moving his cane to have me stop. So I couldn't deny it this time. Thank you, God. And so I let him in, and he got in my car, and I drove him to the bus station. And all the whole way through the bus station, he was talking in Italian, and I don't know, suddenly I understood most of the words, actually. But he was just like being a love story, and Italian is a beautiful language to be a love story, but he was constantly like bella weet ik veel, I don't know, like bellissima or something, like beautiful, and he was just pouring love into me. And at the end he was like kissing my hand. He said, I love you, mwah, bella. So it was like the universal love story right in front of me, and me getting a second chance to actually learn from him, what does it mean to be an outrageous lover in this moment. And so that's another quality of an outrageous lover, is that we get to ask that question all the time. What would outrageous love do right now? Another question that we ask is this moment open or is this moment closed? And it's a very clear distinction. It's always like open or closed. There's nothing in between. It's just clear. Am I open or am I closed? Is the moment open or is the moment closed? And then the question, like, what can I do actively to love the moment open? So that's the thing that we do as outrageous lovers, is we want to always love the moment open. So we take responsibility for our own arousal, and then we love the moment open. It's not easy because we forget all the time, and that's okay. But that's why we have a band of outrageous lovers, and we get to remind each other, and we get to love each other madly, and we get to fall madly in love with each other. And that's really what this community is for. So that's what I want to invite ourselves into. Like, do we have the courage to fall madly in love with each other for real? Do we have the courage to come closer and to open our hearts even deeper and to be even more vulnerable with each other and to find each other even more? Because it's in the fabric of the relationships in this community that we actually get to create a field that is so powerful. And then in that field, we're constantly doing L'Shem Yichud, L'Shem Yichud. May this be for the sake of the whole. And so we're blessing all of reality with this powerful field of enlightenment and field of outrageous love that we're creating here together. Yeah. And we'll close here with just taking a moment to breathe and feel into that. I want to guide us in a practice, and the practice has two parts, and we need a pen and a paper if you have it. If you don't have it, go get it, or you can of course type on your laptop or on your phone. The first thing I want to do is feel into these books. For example, Homemates. We spoke about this book last week, or this Barbie book. And I want us, first of all, to realize that these books aren't just books. And here in the think tank, and what we're doing here, as we all know, is we're writing a great library. And that means that we are writing books. We're publishing books. And sometimes that can feel kind of like, I want to say dead or not alive. Like, it's books, it's a piece of paper. What's the big deal? But the more I work with these books, and last year with the whole team, we published 50 of these books, of these oral essay books. And this year, even more other books. But so it's books, but what does it actually mean? But these books are actually living texts. They are sacred texts. And what we're saying here is that we are telling a new story of value that we're calling CosmoErotic humanism. But another way of saying that is that we are articulating a new world religion as a context for our diversity. And a new world religion is literally a new story of value that is rooted in the best of all the sciences and the best of all the religions. But literally, we're starting a new world religion. And that means that we're writing the text, the sacred text of this new world religion. And that means that there's not much of a difference between these books and the Bible, sorry to say. But these books are like a new revelation. And these oral essays are just like the beginning of that. They're like the tip of the spear. They are like alluding to the new Bible that we're actually going to write. Like, there's one book coming up that is actually literally the book of the New World Religion, where we examine and research very deeply and bring in all the goodness of all the religious traditions and weave them together into a new story of value. So that's really like the big canonical, is that a word? Canonical work that we're going to do. But all of these books, they hold a transmission. Anyone, of course, that has listened to Marc Gafni ever knows that the teachings hold a transmission, and these texts hold a transmission. So I hear some people say, like, oh, it's a little overwhelming to see all these books, and where do I even begin? So I want to encourage you to get any book that speaks to you, and then read it as almost like an oracle. Like, you can ask a question, you can do some meditation, you can do some journaling. What is alive in your story of your life right now? And then you just open it wherever, on any page, open it and you start reading that page. And maybe that page doesn't immediately make sense to you, but just be with that page, meditate with those words and see how it's going to show up in your life. So you don't need to read every book from beginning till end. It's of course also a beautiful practice, but yeah, they're quite thick. So you might want to start with just a couple of pages and trust that those pages are perfect for you. So then what we do is we read the text, and we're going to read you a very, very short paragraph, and then we'll go into the practice, and then we'll close. You read the text and you let it resonate in you. You let it enter your heart. You let it enter your breath. You let it enter every cell of your body. And you feel the aliveness of the text. And then from that place, you take your pen and your paper, and you start writing. And through the process of writing, you are literally like digesting the Dharma and then letting it come out of you in your own unique way. And that is the practice, and that is what an outrageous lover does. And that's the call that we're here to do together. So how do I become this? How do I enact this? And so today I want to do a practice of writing, but what we're going to write is actually we're going to write a review for this book, but the review is going to be, well, you can actually pick which book. Maybe there's another book that you have read more recently that feels more alive in you right now. But I want to change the way that we think about writing reviews, because writing reviews is literally writing an outrageous love letter. And it's letting your voice be heard, and it's becoming a sacred activist and writing your outrageous love story and putting it out on the web and saying, hey, this matters to me and this is why it matters to me. So we're letting our voices be heard. And imagine hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of love notes all over these 50 books on Amazon, and all of our love notes there, and everyone can see and feel like, wow, this is a band of outrageous lovers, even though they don't have those words, but like they can feel the aliveness of our community, and they can feel like something's happening here. Let me participate. Let me come closer. Okay, so take your piece of paper. I'm going to read a very short paragraph. Then we're going straight into Ely, who's going to model for us how the Dharma can come through our unique expressions, and he's going to share a beautiful poem with us. And from there, we're going into a couple of minutes, maybe 3 to 5 minutes of writing, and you can literally write anything. I love this book. I love this. And then we'll come back here on the other side, okay? So, sacred text. And then straight to you, Ely. This means that the ultimate purpose of your life is to bring forth and live the unique expression of love, intelligence, and the life force that can be manifested only by you. In other words, it means to incarnate your unique self. Nothing from our sacred, unique autobiography is lost in the cosmic scroll. Our unique passion, our unique dreams, our unique anguish, and our unique loss are woven into the fabric of the universe itself.
So recently I've been in a book called Codes of Desire, and one part of the Codes of Desire goes back to what Krista was talking about of the failed love stories, and the fact that if we're not able to follow our desire, we are falling out of touch with the great love story of the all that we are a part of. And when we are not in touch with that, life starts to crumble, life starts to be meaningless, and we start to treat others and the world in destructive ways. So this, and all of the most weeks I do a rap here on One Mountain Many Paths. I allow these books and this Dharma to wash through me, and I write it in my own language on top of a beat. This week I was writing the rap, and it felt like it wanted to come more as just a spoken word poem. So we're going to do a spoken word poem today, and it's about this idea of failed love stories. And it's kind of me like putting myself into the state of someone who has lost touch with the love story. So here we go. Failed stories, lost lovers turned to devils, young warriors without the heart. It's all over. Outrageous love, the remolder. Shape-shifting every single part of me. When I first see the divine in your anatomy, flower fragrance, unfurling petals in my heart seed, dreams of family and profound peace. But I was taught desire is something that I should never be. So instead, that creative energy gets twisted, contorted in a way that no soul can hold it. Rejection in my blood, my whole body folds into cycles of shame I relive in slow motion. To dance with the devil is exciting, a quick hit of pleasure that I feel like God has been hiding. If only I knew earlier that God was me hiding from myself, shame I could not accept, no larger story of myself. The plot of every hero is filled with rejection, but in our own lives we blame everything but us, the protagonist's projection, until eventually we can reconnect, know ourselves in a larger frame, a story that began before the beginning of days. The force that brought everything to life, it's living through us now, desiring the creation of better days. And all of my shame, all of reality's outrageous pain is woven back into the fabric of a plot line, evolving towards a more loving stage. The great story, deep lovers, turn to creatives, God's warriors, filled with heart, we live bolder, outrageous love, the remolder. Just an example of how you can allow this to move through you. Back.
Wow. Deepest bow. Beautiful. So good. Yeah, so let's write together, because it's not only Eli, it's not only me, it's not only one person here. Each of us here has so much power to create and write epic, beautiful things. So maybe just decide for yourself what you want to focus on writing right now. It can also be a poem if you feel more alert in that direction. You're totally welcome to write whatever you want. The invitation is to write a review for a book as an outrageous love letter. So that you say, like, for example, this book, Codes of Desire, that Eli mentioned, but any book that you have read, the book on Barbie, the book on artificial intelligence, why, and you can also respond to today's talk. Like, you don't have to respond to a book if maybe you haven't read a book yet, that's totally fine, but just take a piece of paper and write, why does this matter so much to you right now, and what do you want to say to the world about this? So we'll take a few minutes, I'll play some music in the background, and then we'll come back here.
There are those who teach that to touch God, you have to move beyond desire. To touch God, you have to go to the inside of the desire itself. For God is desire.
האדמה ושמיים, חום האש, צליל המים, אני מרגיש זאת בגופי, ברוחי ונשמתי. Strong wind, deep water, tall trees, warm fire. I can feel it in my body, I can feel it in my soul. Hey ya, 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 oh. Hey ya, 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 oh. Hey ya, 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 oh. אדמה ושמיים, חום האש, המים, אני מרגיש זאת בגופי, ברוחי, בנשמתי.
To be connected to the earth, to the sky, to the fire, to the sound of the water, to let that desire flow through me, and in it, to find God.
Hey ya, 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 ho. Hey ya, 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 ho. Hey ya, 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 ho. Hey ya, 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 ho. Hey ya, 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 ho. Hey ya, hey ya.
Okay, we'll close the short writing practice here. I hope you wrote something beautiful. I know you have. If you want to share it in the chat box, you're very, very, very welcome to do that. Love to hear all the beautiful voices. And just a little sample, it can be as simple as, I want you to read this book because it gives you the power to emerge as the one that you were always meant to be, to show up in the world in a way that changes all of reality. It helps you claim your power, your desire, your goodness, and your truth, and then step up to help other people do the same. So a very simple love note into reality to help these books go into the world. And so Eli's going to share with us what it means to join our book review team.
Yes. So we had an exciting new idea, which I think this was actually Krista's idea first. Really good idea because we've wanted to do reviews and get these books out into culture more because it is a review is literally worth just unthinkable amounts because people show up to Amazon and people who Marc is in dialogues with, meaning very high level people who these books are getting in front of, come to Amazon when they hear about Marc, see these books, and if they see a book with 100 very positive reviews, that really changes the way that they perceive a book. And think about how you move when you're looking at a book that you maybe want to buy or maybe some other product. You always look at the reviews. You always want to see lots of reviews at 5 stars. So it's so important to do. And it's also so important to read these books because reading these books is so good for every single part of your being. So we thought, why not combine the two and also combine that with the ability to come together with other people. So we're starting something called a book club. I'm going to share, or not a book club. We have a book club already, which is awesome. And this is going to get integrated into that, which is a book review team. So this will be a group of people who, when we have new books coming out, and whenever we're trying to move a new book out into culture, you can come join this group, and you will also get PDFs of the books that we have, and you'll also be able to get a little pre-access to books that we're talking about, and we're thinking of having small discussions with Marc about a little behind the scenes on what's being written in the books. So all of those types of things will be what you'll get for joining the book review club. And what it's going to be is a WhatsApp group where you will be able to be in contact with all of us. You'll get PDFs of the books when they're coming out and when we're working on new books. And you'll also be in this private WhatsApp community with us as we are going to push these books out into culture. And all that's expected of you is for you to enjoy these books and also write and post reviews right away. Because what we want to do is get these reviews going as fast as possible. Krista mentioned the AI book, Value is a Feeling and AI Cannot Feel. If you sign up for this right now, you will get a free PDF of that book and a link to go review that right away. So just to show you guys also how easy it is to write an Amazon review, we have this book, Values of Feeling, Artificial Intelligence Doesn't Feel. When you come to the page, you can see the reviews right here. We already have 14 because a group of the people right at the center of the revolution here have been immediately writing their reviews, which is amazing. And when you just scroll down, you can see all the information about the book, which is super cool. And then there's a part that just says customer reviews. And all you need to do is click write a review. and I already have my review in here, so I obviously can't submit another review. But here's where you can paste in that little love note that you just wrote with Krista, and then you just click submit, and that's all. And it takes literally 1 to 3 minutes to write a review. And it's fun because you get to pour out and say how much you appreciate the books and what we're working on here. So, yeah, if you want to join that book review team, the link is in the chat box right now for you to be able to come join. Krista.
Yes, perfect. Thank you for showing that. And I just noticed you showed the Amazon page and scrolled through it quickly, but Jane, our amazing outrageous lover, has created those beautiful designed pieces on the page. So thank you, Jane, for doing that. And finally, I want to say, and then we'll go to the biggest part of today, which is telling outrageous love stories, so stay for that. But I do want to say, to be able to write reviews on Amazon, you need to have spent $50 on Amazon.com. So if you're not a regular buyer on Amazon, here's what we are going to do. We're going to make these books available for people who are joining the book review team. Of course, we'll send you the PDF, but because you need to buy something on Amazon, we're going to make them available for print price. So for a short period of time, we're going to lower the prices on Amazon so that you can buy a box for probably like 10 books, I think, for $50. So you don't need to pay for the books, only for the printing and shipping. And then you get those books at home, and then you can review those, and you will have spent the $50 you need to spend on Amazon to be able to write reviews. So we will let you know more about that. If you just drop your email, if you want to participate in this, please do so. So now we're going to practice 1 from Outrageous Lover is writing outrageous love letters. Practice 2 is committing outrageous acts of love in our unique corner of the world. Practice 3 is telling the stories of the outrageous acts of love that we or someone else has committed. Because by telling the stories, you kind of double down, you get extra points. And so today we're going to be inspired by the amazing Terry Nelson, who has been a very close friend of Dr. Marc Gafni for over a decade. He's a member of the board of the Center for World Philosophy and Religion, and just a beautiful human being, an outrageous lover. So we're going to listen to his outrageous love stories in his unique corner of the world. Terry.
So first, let me turn a little bit so I didn't so much sun. Okay, I'm here in my living room in Tiburon, California. And last week, Krista and I were having a phone conversation, and we were talking about, or I was talking about my feelings of sadness and grief and anger and confusion and helplessness given the way the world is today. And it seems like, in the face of the wanton cruelty and the plain wrongness in the world, and it seemed like a lot of people were having those same kind of feelings of helplessness. I just read Secretary of Defense of the United States had invited a Christian nationalist minister to speak at the Pentagon. And he basically said, wives should submit to their husbands, women should be denied the vote, and Christian enslavers, i.e. Christians who had slaves, were on firm scriptural grounds. Now, I guess everybody gets to have their opinion, but inside of me, I'm screaming, no, that's wrong. And certainly not for my government to be telling people in the Pentagon that's the way it is. The day before our talk, I talked to my niece, who was a teacher in Minneapolis. And she said the scars here will last for 50 years. Not just for the kids who were hiding at home, not coming to school, but for the kids who were in school looking at the empty chairs in their classroom. It's going to last a long time. And the question always in looking at that is, what can I do? And whenever I think about that question, what can I do? I move to what I call Marc's helplessness buster, or Marc's despair buster. And that is, do what's yours to do. There's a part of the world that is yours to love and won't get loved if you don't do it. For me, in that regard, there are big practices and little practices. Now, in regard to the Center for World Philosophy and Religion, I'm all in, whether it's being the audible reader for the book or writing a book or whatever, I'm all in. It's the best game in time. It's an ever bigger yes in the world. But Krista wanted me to share some of my small practices. So when I was doing large group trainings, I would always start the training with, look, what I'm here, what I'm committed to here is your epitaph, your obituary, your eulogy. I'm committed that it say what you want it to say, and that it not say, whoops, or gee, I sure wish, or I regret that. And of course, when you write that obituary, when you author that obituary, is right now, this moment. Now, since I'm not doing so many trainings anymore, I go through that same process with an idea and a sharing that Krista gave me, which is every morning I walk out and I say, looking at the Golden Gate Bridge, and why I'm over here is so you can see my Hello God perch. So I don't know if you can see out there, that little bridge in the distance, that's the Golden Gate. So I stand here in the morning and I say, as Krista does, hello, God. And then I talk to God and I say, take care of Betsy and take care of Megan, my son, daughter, and son, Topher, and take care of, these friends that I list, and Mark and Krista and the people in Israel and Gaza and Ukraine. And then I look out at that scene because I can see thousands of houses from where I'm here up on the hill. And I say to this group of people, look, people out there, I want to sing you a love song. I want to rock you in my arms all night long. I want to get to know you. I want to show you the peaceful feeling of my home. For those of you who are Loggins and Messina's fans. And once I'm completed that, I've actually prepared myself for the rest of my day so that I can look through those eyes of, I want to sing you a love song wherever you are. I've tuned myself for the rest of the day. Now, how does that show up? Well, I was telling Krista, so I got Dupuytren's contraction, where your hands get current and you got to get them operated on every once in a while. So last week I'm in the doctor's office. I'm lying down on his table, arms outstretched. He's working on my hands. And I start talking to him about, you got to love that part of the world that's yours to love. And there are first values and first principles. And he started telling me about the book he was writing as a plastic surgeon on the history of it. By the way, there's a whole history of replacing lost noses. I bet you didn't know that, but he explained it all to me. And this 30-minute procedure took an hour because we were in a conversation. We were connected. We were actually intimate there on the operating table. And it really came from my daily practice of preparing myself to be ready for that opportunity. Another practice that I do is every week at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, I have a men's group meeting. And the men's group meeting is me and my friend Roy, who's an Episcopal minister. That's the whole meeting. And we've been talking about people's fear and people's worrying and people's helplessness. And I've shared with him often Mark's statement and Mark's, the one that we all know, love that part of the world that's yours to love, that won't get loved if you don't do it. And he said, please tell Marc Gafni, thank you for that. I've told other people that. It opens it up for them. And in 2 weeks, that's my sermon. He's an Episcopal minister and he's going to be preaching, love that part of the world that's yours to love, and it won't get loved if you don't. Another practice, my son Topher, living here at home now, and when he comes up, because he's got the whole downstairs, when he emerges from his lair, it's sort of like a bear that's been hibernating for the winter, and they're kind of grumpy. So he comes up, but I always say to Topher, and I really feel joy at seeing him, hello. But in that hello, I put all my love into my son that I truly love, and I want him to get it. Now, does he always get it? I don't know, but I keep putting it out every time. By the way, I'll be at the mystery school on Zoom, but Topher's going to be there live. So you all get to meet Topher if you're there. Another of my practices is every morning I put on my headphones and I walk up and down thy neighborhood and I sing. It's like a walking karaoke machine. And I think nobody can hear me, but I sing to the trees and I sing to the world. And I always think people wouldn't, unless I told them I was singing, they wouldn't know what that noise was. But I actually had a neighbor, I was gone for a week, a neighbor come by my house, knocking at the door, talking to my wife to find out if I was okay, because he says, I haven't heard him singing for a whole week. So rather quickly, and I know we're getting a little late here, everybody on this Zoom, I have something to say to you. I want to sing you a love song. I want to rock you in my arms all night long. I want to get to know you. I want to show you the peaceful feeling of my home. And please, all of you, do your small practices. I think they matter. Create new love in the world, create new intimacy in the world. That's what I'm trying to do in my own small way as I go through my day.